Hi, here's the homework for Thursday night, March 22nd. We're solving quadratic equations with the square root method. Remember, your first step for this method is to get the x squared or the m squared, whatever your square term is by itself. So first, this one is already by itself over here. So next, you just take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is just x. The square root of 36 is 6, so it's going to be plus or minus 6. Don't forget, you're going to have the plus or minus anytime you take the square root. All right, for number 2, I need to get the x squared by itself, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides. X squared is equal to 9. Now that the x squared is by itself, I can take the square root of both sides, and x is plus or minus 3. Number 3, first I need to divide by 5 to get that moved over. Then I've got x squared is equal to 20 divided by 5, which is 4. Now that the x squared is by itself, I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get x is equal to plus or minus 2. Oops. All right. Number 4. I have a couple steps to get that x squared by itself. So first I'm going to add 45 to both sides. And I get 5x squared is equal to 45. I'm going to get rid of the 5 by dividing by 5, and I get x squared is equal to 9. I'm going to take the square root of both sides at this point, and I get x is equal to plus or minus 3. Number 5, I'm going to add 18 to both sides. Trying to get this x squared by itself again. Then I need to get rid of the 2, so I'm going to divide off the 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now that I've got the x squared by itself, I take the square root of both sides, and x is equal to plus or minus 3. Number 6, I need to add 16 to both sides. So x squared is equal to 16 minus 3, which is 3. Now that the x squared is by itself, I'll take the square root of both sides, and x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. All right, moving on to number 7. This one's got the square by itself. So I take the square root of both sides. Square root of x minus 7 squared is just x minus 7. Square root of 6 breaks down to 2 and 3. There's no partners in crimes that can come out, so it's just going to be plus or minus the square root of 6. But we're not done this time. Now I've got something, I've got x minus 7 is equal to something. I want just x by itself now, so I got to add 7 after I take the square root. So x is equal to 7 plus or minus the square root of 6. For 8, the first thing I want to do is divide by 7. I get x minus 3 squared is equal to 5. Now that I've got the square by itself, I take the square root of both sides. I get x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 5. And then I add 3 to both sides to get x by itself, and I get x is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 5. Last problem. Again, I need to get rid of this 6 first, so I'm going to divide by 6. I get x plus 4 squared is equal to 18 divided by 6, which is 3. Now that the square is by itself, I take the square of both sides, the square root of both sides. I get x plus 4 on the left side is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. And then to get x by itself, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I get x is equal to minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 3. And that's it for your homework for March 22nd. Send me an email if you have questions.